Before we begin, I would just like to say that this video is going to be a collaboration done with the YouTube channel ScaryStuff. I'll have a link in the description below to his channel. I highly recommend that you guys go check out his content after this video. Also, the links to the stories will also be in the description below if you guys would like to read along with us. With that being said, let's begin.
When I was around 6 years old, we moved into a house in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. It's where I lived most of my life. The house we had just moved into was so big, but even being so young, I got the worst of vibes. It was a 4-bedroom house with a huge basement that had 3 other rooms. We lived in this house for 6 years, and little creepy things would happen here and there. But it wasn't until we decided to move that things started to happen. For my 11th birthday, I was begging my family for a Ouija board, and my mom got me one. I should state that my mom is very into paranormal stuff, so she was fine with the idea of me having one. She taught me how to use it and what not to do with it. One night, we were sitting around the kitchen table and asking questions. The planchette started moving, and no one was even touching it, so we decided to put it away. After that night, the feeling of the house became extremely uncomfortable. I'm going to skip forward to what I can remember the most so that I get this story right. It was a creepy night, and I was tucked into my bed, hearing weird sounds on the stairs. I should mention that my room was at an angle, so that I could see the very bottom of the staircase. I wanted to get up and look, but when I tried, something pulled the covers off my feet slowly. I looked down thinking he was my mom's boyfriend, playing tricks on me, but no one was there. A couple minutes passed, and the covers got moved again, and now my toes began to be tickled. I screamed for my mom, who ran in as fast as she could. She told me it was nothing, and then I should go back to sleep. I tried, but I was wide awake, full of fear. I laid in bed for a good 30 minutes, and then my heater in my hallway began turning on and off. So I got up and unplugged it. I got back into bed, and when I did, I was shoved down and punched right in the face. I got up thinking maybe I had hit my head and just been tired, so I didn't notice. But no, I was clearly punched in the face, as there was a small mark right below my eye. I screamed for my mom again, and at this point, she knew it wasn't me being paranoid. She told whatever it was to go away and let me rest, but it didn't listen. My mother told me to try my best to ignore it and just go back to sleep, as if paying it no attention would make it go away. She later went to bed, and I was still awake. My door was open, and even though it was pitch black in my house, I could still see something darker than the black room, moving on all fours. It was breathing heavily, and I let out a little scream. It turned towards me slowly, and then it started making its way into my room. It was walking faster and faster until it got right beside my bed. I had the sheets covering my face, and I was praying to God that this thing would leave my room. It just stood there and stared at me, and then I felt its hands reach down and pull my sheets up. It started tickling my toes and holding my legs down. I was freaking out, but stayed still, so it thought I was sleeping. After what felt like hours, but was probably only a minute, I heard it walk away. I was so relieved and got up out of my bed and closed my door. That was the last night I ever slept with my door open. I've had a lot more terrifying experiences in that house, so let's just say that I'm thankful that we moved when we did, because whatever was there was becoming very aggressive.
Long-time lurker here with a story to tell. A little background. I'm in my late 20s and 36 weeks pregnant right now. I've always been pretty fit and have made a big effort to stay in shape while pregnant. So I've been swimming a few times a week at a local pool. I like to go when it's slow and not very many people are around. But after this experience, I'm rethinking that. I was just finishing up my laps late morning on a Wednesday when this place is practically deserted, and head to the hot tub where I'll sit for just a few minutes to stretch. That's when I see her, or rather, smell her first. A thick, pungent odor permeates the alcove where the therapy pool is tucked away out of plain view. It smells of cigarettes and unwashed hair. It's a smell that only fairly deranged people take on, due to the total lack of bodily awareness. She may not be that old, but she's very aged. She is slouched over with a curved spine and very long, stringy yellowy gray hair. She smiles at me with a mouthful of rotted yellow teeth. I smile back, trying to be friendly. She seems mentally ill, and I don't want to be mean. However, she gets into the tub and sits uncomfortably close to me, still watching my face closely. I get up to leave as I'm pretty much done anyway, and being pregnant, I limit my time in the hot water. She notices my belly right away and exclaims, "You're pregnant." I nod and smile, still walking away. She continues, "Where's your husband?" "Around." I lie over my shoulder as I walk off. I'm slightly weirded out, but not too bad. I get back into the pool to float for a while and relax. Then it's time to go, and I head into the showers. Right away, I see her. She is soaping herself up and muttering to herself. I'm getting a strong vibe not to go near this woman. Normally, odd behavior doesn't really faze me, and I'm not easily intimidated by women. But I instinctively held back to wait for her to be done showering. It became clear that she was not going to finish up anytime soon, so I choose a shower furthest away and start washing my hair. I keep her in my periphery, but I don't engage. She sees me again and announces, "You're pregnant. Look at your belly," and continues to try and make conversation. I pretend not to hear her and turn away a little to avoid eye contact and just start soaping up. I take off my bikini to wash the chlorine smell off me. I'm just washing my body as usual until I hear breathing behind my shoulder, very, very close. I turn, and she's inches away from me, breathing hard. I can see her shriveled breast sagging, and what seems to be thousands of layers of folded wrinkly skin all over her. She is muttering and panting. So beautiful. Beautiful. I then realize she has her hands on her vagina, rubbing like mad. I'm so surprised, I just stand there frozen for a second, then quickly grab my towel and get the fuck out. She does not follow me to my relief. Heading back to the changing area, there is the same insanely strong odor, not just of cigarettes, but stale booze. I see her things. A pile of plastic bags and some wipes strewn about that are bloodied. I get dressed in a bathroom stall that locks, and thankfully, I make it to my car without seeing her again.
English is my third language, so keep that in mind when snickering at my less than perfect grammar. When I was 20 years old, it was really hard to find work in my hometown. I eventually managed to get a job though, as an administrator. I don't know what this sort of place is called in English, but I'll describe it for you. People who commit very serious crimes, usually arson, murder, or similar, who are believed to suffer from mental issues or personality disorders, are placed there, instead of in a normal prison. You know what kind of place I'm speaking of. Yeah, that's where I worked. I'm a rather petite woman, just over 50 kilograms, and looking years younger than my actual age. Easy target, you might say. I rarely interacted with the interns, apart from being the one to let them in and out of the gate when they had reason to be outside the facility, and then always escorted by the guards. There was one man, a short and broad dude from the Philippines, who always looked at me with the creepiest smile you ever saw, eyeing my ID badge closely every time. I of course had no right to know what those people had done to end up in a place, but my boss felt the need to tell me about this guy. "Watch out for him," she said. "He's a serial stalker and arsonist. Never let your guard down. People think he is stupid, but he's not. He's actually over average intelligent." The summer turned into fall, and in September that year, I left that job to go back to university. It wasn't until 2 years later, in December, just before Christmas, that it happened. I was shopping for a bracelet for my sister when I hear a whisper right next to my ear. "Hello, Josephine." I turn around and find myself eye to eye with the stalker / arsonist guy. He had remembered my name too. I didn't buy the bracelet. I left in a hurry, certain that he had only been out on one of his short visits outside, and that the guards were close by watching. They do that to let the interns train for being let out again. This gives them freedom under a watchful eye, 1 hour per week or so, to see how they handle it. I didn't see any guards that I recognized, but I was sure they were there. I went home. My sister and I live on a flat, each on the top floor of an apartment building, and when we are both home, we keep our doors open, and kids and pets can roam freely between our homes. We were in my flat, decorating the Christmas tree, when I heard the steps. Not the light steps of my niece, not the fast steps of my fiancé. It was the heavy, slow steps of the arsonist. He had found me, and he was on his way up. I threw myself at the door, locking it shut. My sister had no idea what was going on, but I told her to take the kids, go into the bathroom, lock the door, and call the cops. I stood by the locked front door, listening to the steps. I could hear him roaming around in my sister's apartment. He had found her Christmas cards and was reading the names of her children out loud. Then he started searching for something, while whistling happily. My sister, always a rock, was keeping the kids calm in the bathroom while I was listening to him merrily explaining that he needed tools that could break the lock open. Since I knew who he was, and police knew who he was, they arrived very quickly, and soon the situation was resolved. It turned out that since there are too few places to keep those people, some had been let out early to make room for those considered more dangerous. I guess he found me by chance that day in the store, and decided there and then to go after me. It was a frightening experience, and if my boss hadn't warned me so vigorously about this man, I wouldn't have acted as fast as I did.
Backstory. This man was my dad's best friend, and I had known him since I was a baby. I even call him Uncle T. That's how close he was to my dad, and he was a big part of my childhood. When my dad was married to my second stepmom, they liked to party a lot. They were drinking pretty much every weekend that I was over there, and if they weren't drinking, my dad was working odd hours due to his profession. On one of his weekends, my stepmom and I went over to their friends' houses. Now, they lived in a one-street town in Texas, where everybody knows everybody, and the only thing to do on the weekends is to get together and get drunk. I don't exactly remember how many people were at this party, but I was the only child there at this point. I want to say that I was anywhere from 10 to 12 years old. So, Uncle T drives up, and my stepmom tells me to go say hi to him, which I hesitantly do, because at this point, Uncle T has started to make me feel uncomfortable by sitting in my lap every time he saw me. Every time. I feel like I should point out that I had developed breasts a lot earlier than my other peers, and they were quite large. Anyways, so I go out to meet him, and he opens his car door but doesn't come out. He's just sitting there, watching me. "Hi, Uncle T," I say, as I'm staring down at him, squinting in the dying light of the sun. "Hey there, sweetheart. You're getting bigger than my girls," he tells me as he pointedly looks me up and down. His eyes came to rest at my chest. Since I had done what I was told, I happily turned and walked back to my stepmother, completely uncomfortable with what had just transpired. You know the feeling. That skin-crawling sensation that tells you something just isn't right. Flash forward to later that night, and the party is dying down. The host is in the shower, and it's just me, my stepmom, the hostess, and Uncle T in the living room. I'm on the couch in the middle seat. My stepmom is sitting on the floor to the left of me. Uncle T is on the couch to the left of me. Basically, my stepmom is sitting between his legs. The hostess is in an armchair to the right, watching us with concern. I must emphasize that her concern was evident. This is important. Uncle T is playing with my stepmom's hair, and mine. It was easy for him to do, since both of us had ponytails. He was stroking it, really, over and over. All I wanted to do was get away from that situation, but I couldn't. I don't know why, but I just couldn't. I just wanted the night to end. Thankfully, this didn't last too long. Finally, my stepmom and I are in the car. We're about to leave when the hostess comes running out and asks to speak privately with my stepmom. My stepmom gets out of the car and talks to the hostess for a few minutes before getting back in. "What was that about?" I ask, knowing she would tell me. The hostess said that she was worried about Uncle T. She even went to the host while he was showering and told him that Uncle T was flirting with us, and it made her uncomfortable. "How crazy is that?" she asks me, smiling at me like it's the funniest thing in the world. "Crazy," I say, forcing a fake smile. Fast forward a couple of months, and I finally tell someone about the whole thing. I think it was my grandmother, my dad's mom. She absolutely freaks out and confronts my dad about it. My dad asks my stepmom and the host and hostess. They told him nothing happened, that they never told my stepmom that Uncle T made them uncomfortable. They said I must have been mistaken, or lying. My mom tells me that I'm not allowed over at my dad's anymore. When I ask why, she says that even after all that I had told them, my dad had let Uncle T move onto his property. He was living in the trailer behind my dad's house. I was in complete shock. I felt betrayed. Why would they lie like that? Why would my dad let my Uncle T move in knowing what I'd said? To make matters worse, I eventually found out why my grandmother had freaked out like she had. Apparently, my Uncle T had been arrested on charges of child molestation years before. I can't remember if he was ever fully convicted or not. And even worse than that, my dad is a cop. So, let that sink in for a minute. And worse still, I learned a year or two ago that my stepmom had been sleeping with him. For years, I was worried that Uncle T would come looking for me, to punish me for telling on him. I would have nightmares about him finding me. Thankfully, he never did. A few months ago, I learned that he committed suicide, and only because my dad was Facebook friends with him. As bad as it sounds, I felt relieved. He was gone. I don't have to worry about him anymore. But sometimes I wonder if I hadn't said anything, what would have happened? What would have happened if I had been at my dad's house while he was living there, only 20 feet from where I lay sleeping? Thank you for listening. Remember, make sure to check out Scary Stuff's YouTube channel. He makes really great videos, and I think you guys will really enjoy his content. Until next time, though, have a great night, everyone. And as always, stay safe.